So we have now pushed the record button for this. Welcome, Kristen. And we're gonna get started just in the interest of honoring everybody's time. So welcome to Safe Spaces, a series of conversations and coaching for leaders. And I am Christine Rose. I'm a business and executive coach based in the Seattle area. And I work primarily with business owners, CEOs of companies that are in the 5 to 50 million range, so small to medium companies. And I help them with leadership, with creating effective, innovative teams, cultures for teams, and also just with the systems and structures and coaching to help them improve the bottom line for their company. I'm also the author of Life Beyond Me Too, #MeToo, which you can get on Amazon Kindle Unlimited for free right now. And Catherine.
Great, thanks. So I'm Catherine Mayer. I'm based on the other coast in New York City, Midtown Manhattan, actually. And I run a small executive coaching and leadership development firm. And I've been doing so for 15 years. And what's important to know about me is I used to be, and still am, a competitive tennis player and tennis coach. And really focus on working with people sort of different than Christine, mostly in Fortune 1000 to Fortune 500 companies who are, like myself, very competitive people, or also, as I call myself, a perfectionist in recovery, and who want to play a bigger game, a better game, as well as lead their teams to a bigger and better game, especially in these difficult times. So I'm really thrilled to be here with Christine. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining. Welcome, Liz. Thanks for joining. Kristen, thanks for joining us. And Catherine.
Okay. And so I just want to make sure that everybody's on Zoom. Does anybody have any problems hearing? Or I know some of you are on the phone. Are there, and I know I always sort of laugh when I ask this, if anybody can't hear, speak up. But any Zoom issues right now? Everybody can see everything? Everything okay? And Kristen and Liz on the phone, are you okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, as we go through this, just make sure you'll be on mute, but when you want to speak up, just press on the, on the corner on the bottom left if you're on a computer, or sometimes it's the bottom right, to unmute yourself. Oh, good, Liz, thank you. And identify yourself with speaking when you're speaking. And please write any comments that you have in the chat. We will be, looking at the chat. So, and make sure you have the view on gallery so you can see everybody. Everybody good? All right. So let's just get into this program by forgetting whatever happened before. So we're just going to do a few breaths before we just get into this. If everybody can put their feet on the ground and just take, I like 5 breaths. Just take 5 breaths just to get right into the room. Let go of whatever. And if if some of you are on the East Coast and you're eating, that's okay. You can continue to do so, but just take a few deep breaths and just kind of let go of whatever happened, and close your eyes. You cannot do that unattractive breathing where you let out your stomach and just kind of let it go. One more deep breath. Okay. So come back in, final breath, and I'll turn it back over to Christine. So welcome.
This is all about bringing psychological safety to your team in a crisis, and we've been facing crisis, but this is really good for any time. And I want you to feel like this, the next 15 to 20 minutes, and if you stay for the coaching for the second part, that we have each other's backs here. We're learning together that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have all the right answers, but you can contribute answers that you do have. And this is a safe space for us as leaders to be. Dr. Timothy Clark, who's the CEO of Leader Factor and author of the 4 Stages of Psychological Safety, says you either lead the way or get in the way. And we're reviewing this material because we want to lead the way and not be in the way without even knowing that we are, right? So the agenda, feel free to use the chat and check in. You know, what were you hoping to gain from this time? Any questions that you have that you're hoping we'll cover? And in the interest of your time, you know, I do have a little poll, and you're welcome to use the chat to just make comments in real time or questions in real time, and we'll see if we can get to those. And then we'll end with a little time to talk about what we learned, and then move on to offering coaching to those who show up on current issues that you may be facing. So I'm going to start with a poll. And what do you think? Go ahead and vote. I'm launching the poll. What do you think that teams that you're working with right now need most to be effective? And just take a few seconds and pick the first answer that aligns with what you're thinking your team needs.
So it's only one.
Right, pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one answer. You're gonna vote. So I'm gonna just give you 8 more seconds. Few more seconds. Okay, we all voted. So the answers that people came up with is that we definitely could use more time, and we could use better managers. And some people could use more people on their team too. So this actually is a little bit of a red herring. But I think that the better managers slide, we're going to find out that Google did a Project Aristotle study. Raise your hand if you are familiar with Project Aristotle. Anybody? Yeah? Okay, so that was a study of 15,000 team members on over 60 individual contributing factors, or to determine what it was that made teams effective, teams from 8 to 50 people. And what they found was the #1 linchpin, the gateway factor that contributed to successful and innovative teams, was psychological safety. I have this picture up here because it reminded me of a time where I was on a freeway on the East Coast, heading back to the airport after a business meeting, and the GPS didn't tell me that an exit was coming up, and I had all of 25 feet to move off the freeway onto that exit. And at the same time, I couldn't see that there was an on-ramp because it was obscured by trees. And so I had my blinker on, I looked, I didn't see anybody, I moved over, and darn it, if somebody hadn't accelerated onto that on-ramp, didn't see my blinker, and we collided right there. So this just reminds me that as a leader, there's things that maybe we can't see. We might not be able to see everything that's happening. We have blind spots, and those can create situations that make it challenging for our team. And there's things that we need to know that we might not know. So what do we need to know as leaders right now? First of all, that we set the context. And if our context isn't safe for our team members to contribute, we're not going to be as effective as we want to be, and we're not going to be able to innovate and learn as much as we want to. Secondly, that this is an ongoing challenge that requires ongoing commitment from leaders. It's not a one and done. And third, that the top-down, authoritative, concentrated decision-making and leadership that used to work doesn't work in this environment, that we really do need a new normal in how we work with our teams, and that psychological safety is going to contribute to that. So what is psychological safety? Dr. Amy Edmondson, who also wrote The Fearless Organization, if you haven't read it, I recommend it, is defining it as this shared belief that team members are safe to take risks. And it's, you know, on an individual level, it's do we trust? But on a team level, it's more than trust. It's how safe is it in the team environment to stand out, to show up, to ask questions. And so Dr. Timothy Clark, his research shows that there are 4 stages and they build on each other. The first is inclusion safety, and that is how safe is it to just show up as a human being and be accepted and know that no matter who you are, you're accepted as a human, as a brother and sister. You are, you know, they hired you. And I think part of the Black Lives Matter issue right now is there's lack of inclusion safety for a group of people. You can't just have diversity. You can't just have people in the room. There has to be inclusion. They have to have a seat at the table. They have to have an equal voice. They have to matter. And their perspectives that they're bringing, and they're just right to show up as who they are, is something that we have to offer team members. The next level is learner safety. Think about a time where you maybe knew the answer to a question, or you maybe wanted to learn something and it wasn't safe to ask questions. It wasn't safe to fail. It wasn't safe to learn for you. And so learner safety is that ability to challenge yourself and challenge everybody on the team to always have a mindset of learning, and that it's okay to learn, to even see conflict as learning opportunities, and to see failure as a learning opportunity. The next level is contributor safety, and you have to have your chops to be able to earn contributor safety, right? So you've been included in the group, you've learned, you know your stuff. Now, do I have the ability to bring what I know into the picture and say, you know, I see things from a different perspective than the rest of the group, and I want to contribute my perspective. Can I do that safely? So that's contributor safety. And then the top level, once you've got inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, this is where the innovation happens. You have to have challenger safety for there to be innovation. Challenger safety is being able to say, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. Let's explore a different way. Or, I really think that this approach isn't going to work, and here's why. And how safe is it for everybody on your team at every level to challenge and know that they're not going to lose their job or they're going to be demoted or whatever it is because they're bringing up something that doesn't necessarily agree with you. And this has to happen at every level across the team. And when we have challenger safety, then it's safe to innovate, because we're always learning together as teams. Learning and producing and executing are ongoing all the time for teams. And we also have to have that challenger safety. That's when psychological safety is really there and your teams can be effective and innovative. So how do we lead? These are just 5 points about how to open our minds to lead with psychological safety. As leaders, how open are we to other people's perspectives? When there's a conflict, are we looking for the diverse perspectives, or are we trying to squash the conflict? That's, conflict is a learning opportunity. And it's really about reframing it so that instead of it being a bad thing, it's a good thing, because it's going to be a chance to learn, to be able to share decision-making with people in the team and have it not be centralized, but to be able to say, hey, you're in the place where you're seeing what happens. You make the decision, and let's figure out if it doesn't work, let's figure out what to do together. Also, are you offering opportunities for experimentation? Are you offering opportunities for people to learn together and contribute new things. And then finally, it's about how do you show up as a leader? Are you safe to be yourself? Do you have the care and concern for the people on your team so that they feel included, they feel safe to learn, they feel safe to contribute and challenge? And you know, are you for real? Are you safe to learn? Do you have to be the oracle that has all the answers, or can you be somebody who's real, authentic, and showing up with your team? And then we will tell you about Alan Mullally at Ford. He had a group of, the first global leadership team meeting that he went into, Alan asked them after multiple years of being in the red as a company, please contribute green, red, or green, yellow, or red. You know, where are you with your team in producing and bringing the results you're supposed to bring it to us and let's solve it together. And the first meeting, everybody was in the yellow or green. He said, how can that be? We've been losing money for years. So next time, bring me something. There was one guy who was a leader of a division who was in the red and thought he was going to lose his job anyway, said, what do I have to lose? And he next week brought that he was in the red. And Alan, he was the final presenter. And when Alan saw that he brought that it was in the red, he actually stood up and clapped for him. So do we have that care for the person and the willingness to bring problems to the table and share them together? And I'm just going to leave you with 4 items of action that you might want to consider taking. The first is do a self-assessment, and I can send you a free link to a free assessment after this to test your own psychological safety level with your team. Then, based on the information that you've learned here, kind of start with yourself. Give yourself permission to show up. Give yourself permission to not know everything. Give yourself permission to let your team make some more decisions and see how it goes. Give yourself permission to be challenged and invite your team to challenge you. But, you know, one step at a time, start modeling it, because it's caught as much as taught. Because we can bring all this stuff to your team, teach them this, and they're going to be watching as a leader to see how you show up. And then the third step would be to assess the team. And that's something Catherine and I can help you with a very psychologically safe assessment that helps the team know anonymously what's happening with the team and if there's anything to address. And then finally, start working on strategies to create changes that the team wants to see. And again, that's something Catherine and I can help you with. And now we're just gonna break for your input at this point. Any questions?
Takeaways. What hit you? Yeah. We'd love to hear from you. What's been interesting, Frank?
I liked the slide with the 4 stages of psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
So that was new for me.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree that I've heard psychological safety a lot, and I really could not have told you what that was. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, really didn't know that they built on each other like that. And the research has shown that, you know, you should start with inclusion. And yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's out there, the buzzwords out there, but it's like, what does this mean and how do I help my team have this characteristic? And given that the research has shown not only Google did a major study, but also Microsoft did a major study, and they both found that this is the defining factor that helps teams be effective, this culture. So it really can help your teams be more effective if this is the culture that you're bringing to them and letting them create in.
And what was also interesting, I think, was call it the definition of psychological safety, because in the role that I'm doing, I have a project, and that was also around psychological safety. So that's why I signed up for this session.
Mhm.
We have seen literally 50 different definitions of what psychological safety
Oh, really?
Yeah, and this one was what I call the most simple one. So that is yeah, also interesting. In the others, there's a lot about without all the things that were said in that definition, but without having fear for negative consequences. Huh? So
Mm.
somebody needs to be able to speak up, interfere, show emotion, be themselves.
Mhm.
In any way, but without any fear of any negative consequence while doing that.
Yeah, and you know, if you can't take a risk without there being a consequence, yeah. So Amy does go further into that in the book, but that's her definition that I use. Hi, Liz. Thanks for joining us back on the computer. We were checking into learnings or questions anybody had at this point. So, yeah. Hey, Liz, can you hear okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Well, I
Yeah.
could hear you before. I just couldn't get through on my phone. It doesn't have microphone access. I think I shut Zoom down when Zoom had that moment of
Oh,
insecurity a while ago. We use it
yeah.
on the computer, but I don't use it on the phone anymore because I was afraid it would start connecting when we didn't want it to. Sorry about that. Oh no, I think this was really interesting. And I think that it's a really tough thing because I think that it's easy to say, but it's really hard to do this.
Invite everybody if you'd like to stay. I'm going to invite us into smaller breakout rooms so everybody has an opportunity to address a situation that they're, you know, or at least converse about a situation that they're facing. And is there anybody who can't stay with us for the next 20 minutes? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put us into 2 breakout rooms. And at 1 o'clock, well, at 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock Pacific, we're going to close from the breakout rooms. And so thank you for joining us. At this point, the recording has stopped. There's no recording in the breakout rooms. And we do